For the record, my name is Henry Santana, at-large City Councilor, and I am the Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice. Today is March 13th, 2025. This hearing is being recorded. It is also being live-streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcasted on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, BIOS Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.ps@boston.gov, and will be made part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. Individuals will be called on in the order in which they signed up and will have 2 minutes to testify. If you are interested in testifying in person, please add your name to the sign-up sheet near the entrance of the chamber. If you are looking to testify virtually, please email our Central Staff Liaison, shane.pack@boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket number 0421, order for a hearing to discuss public safety and police staffing in Boston. This matter was sponsored by Councilor Aaron Murphy and Ed Flynn and was referred to the committee on February 5th, 2025. Today, I am joined by my colleagues in order of arrival, Councilors Ed Flynn and Councilors Aaron Murphy. We've also received a letter of absence from Boston City Council President Rusi Louis-Jen. At this time, I'd like to give my colleagues and the lead sponsors an opportunity for opening statements, and then we will proceed with the hearing. So, Councilor Murphy, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So we are here back on February 5th. I filed this hearing order along with Councilor Flynn to discuss public safety, which directly correlates with police staffing in Boston. I believe one of the most important roles we play as city councilors is to address quality of life issues and public safety. Making sure our residents feel safe and are safe is I take that as one of my most important roles on the council here. And we know that the Boston Police Department plays a critical role in ensuring public safety, maintaining order, and protecting residents and visitors during large-scale events across the city. And we know we have a lot of large-scale events. We have the marathon, we have parades like the Celtics parade that can bring millions of people into our city. We also have the Evacuation Day parade, which is coming up this weekend, which last year with the good weather, and this weather this weekend is expecting to be in the 60s, that we'll see up to 1 million people in South Boston this weekend. But we also know that the current data in our police force, even though they've been actively trying to recruit more, is down 135 officers compared to last year, despite their ongoing recruitment efforts. And there is a current police academy class in training. They did have funding to have a larger class, but the numbers, I think they're at about 118 in this class because that was all they could, recruit to consider being on our police force. And these staffing shortages present challenges to our planning and execution. And due to these constraints, BPD has increasingly relied on Mass State Police law enforcement agencies in surrounding towns. Thanks to Councilor Flynn, since last March, the day after the parade last year, he has been convening all stakeholders, not just the police, but fire, EMS, transportation, and other city departments to talk about increasing the supports that are needed at events that draw that much people, and also behaviors that need to be dealt with. And I know that this weekend we're going to be spending money on surrounding towns that are going to have to step in, because even though our full police force is expected to be on call, they'll be working that day. It's not going to be enough to address the needs we have across the city. I do believe there's a need for greater transparency and accountability regarding the costs we incur when requesting additional personnel for outside agencies, as well as the long-term impact of continued staffing shortages. And I did hope that this hearing this morning would provide the following answers for us. Provide an overview of current BPD staffing levels, including vacancy rates, recruitment efforts, and retention challenges. Assess the implications of staffing shortages on public safety response times, crime prevention, and large event security. Examine the financial costs and operational impacts of relying on state police and regional law enforcement agencies for staffing large events, and to explore potential solutions to address staffing shortfalls, including increased recruitment incentives, officer retention programs, and other strategies to enhance public safety. When we filed this hearing order, we did ask for representatives from the mayor's office. We asked for the police department and also any other relevant stakeholders. Unfortunately, you can't see if you're watching from home that we are sitting in an empty chamber. There are no representatives from the administration. I do know that one person who could address maybe some, not all, but some of the BPD staffing issues had a reason that she was not able to be here, but that, in my opinion, doesn't mean that nobody else in the administration could have come to address this very important conversation that I do hope we can continue to have, even though we will not be getting answers. But I think it's important that we do have this opportunity to share our questions and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. I'd like to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilor Brian Worrell, Councilor Enrique Pepin, and Councilor John Fitzgerald. I will proceed with opening remarks from my colleagues, starting with the lead sponsors, and then going to the rest of my colleagues in order of arrival. So, Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for chairing this important hearing. Thank you, Council Murphy, as well, for taking the lead on this important subject. I spent over the last week talking to police officers across the city in preparation for this hearing, so I spent 4 or 5 hours just trying to do my due diligence and being prepared for this hearing, because it's a critical hearing talking about public safety. In every neighborhood I represent, from downtown, South Boston, South End, Chinatown, Bay Village, Back Bay, Fort Point, South Boston waterfront, public safety is one of the foremost concerns I hear from residents and neighbors. Neighbors want to see more police officers walking the beat. That's where you get your information from residents about actually what's happening in your neighborhood. When police officers are walking the beat, they're going to community meetings, they're talking to residents. I observe it every day in the neighborhoods of Boston, especially my district. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not in my district talking to residents or talking to the police. Over the past 7 years, I have consistently advocated for hiring hundreds of additional police officers every year for the next decade to address the long-standing issues of understaffing, overstretched resources, and forced overtime for Boston police officers, as well as looming retirements. Last year, I held a hearing with Council Murphy to discuss Boston Police Department staffing levels as well. This is an important subject. Police staffing in recent years meant that current officers are mandated to fill in the gaps with forced overtime or mandatory overtime, which has led to burnout in officers, taking a physical and emotional toll on our officers and their families. We must foster an environment that allows officers to feel valued while building a strong relationship with residents through community policing. We have to support police officers and their families as well. Having sufficient police staffing levels is critical to help make the streets of Boston safer for our neighborhoods, to improve the health and quality of life of our dedicated police officers. I have talked to the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association. I have talked to the Detectives Union. I have talked to the superior officers. They all agree with me. We need more police officers in this city. Right now, as Councilor Murphy mentioned, but right now we're down 130 or 135 officers compared to this same time last year. In my opinion, it is not okay for officers to be mandated to work excessive hours. It is imperative that the Boston Police Department consistently recruit and retain police officers. It's also important for elected officials as well to support police officers and their families. This is a public health and public safety issue that we need to address for our residents, our police officers, again, and their families. Yesterday, I was at a meeting that I chaired with law enforcement, city, state, and federal partners to discuss final plans for the Evacuation Day parade. And we heard from the police commissioner. He talked about the challenges we have in police shortages as well. Boston is one of the major cities in the Northeast and home to many important historic sites, host many major events, including the St. Patrick's Day, the Boston Marathon. Over the next year, we will be hosting many events celebrating the 250th anniversary of the American independence. We need to ensure that we have a good public safety presence for these gatherings, but we can't do it with limited police officers. We need to incentivize ways to not only recruit more police officers, but also so that our existing police force has a work-life balance, that they can take care of their families, and that they are rested when they're on the streets in difficult situations. I am concerned about potential federal funding cuts to public safety, which will hamper the operation of our police department, law enforcement, to protect our residents. The Boston Police Department currently works together with our state police, as with other police departments throughout greater Boston, to gather information, collect intelligence. We need to discuss challenges and potential federal cuts that may have on our police department, on public safety, on staffing levels. But it's more important that we work together to minimize the disruption this may have on a city. Boston works best when we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. I'm now going to hand the floor over to Councilor Worrell. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the lead sponsors for bringing this forward. I just want to, kind of speak to some of the efforts that the police department has done in terms of recruiting and trying to incentivize recruiting new officers, and also just big shout out to the police commissioner on implementing the community interactive team, and shout out to Captain Sweeney and Captain Flynn for standing up some of those pilot programs in C11, and I think we're going to be getting getting another pilot program in B3. But I also know that there's other parts of the city that has these community interactive teams that are visible, that are primarily in business districts, that are building relationships with not only the community but business owners. I just wanted to give a shout out on that initiative. But I do have some questions around minimum staffing levels and how we factor in any other resources, any other police resources in certain neighborhoods, staffing at public events. How are we looking at that? Are we looking at that through a way of how can we incorporate maybe other alternative security at some of those public events, shifts changes, how it impacts response time and coverage. And those are just a few high-level questions I have for the administration, but I'll definitely submit them to you, Chair, and see if we can get some answers to those. But no further questions, and looking forward to my answers and further conversation around staffing levels. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Worrell. And yes, absolutely, if any of my colleagues, given that there's no panel today, if any of my colleagues want to submit questions through myself, and I'll make sure to submit them and try to get those answers to you all. So, Councilor Pepin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to just start off by thanking the captains of all of my precincts, Captain Haggerty, E5, Captain Flynn from B3, and Captain Hamilton from E18. They all run very well professional precincts in the city of Boston, especially their community service officers that are always out and about in the community at the meetings, making sure that they are also part of the neighborhoods. This is a very important topic to discuss because I've had numerous conversations with our police officers. Specifically, there's some concerns about, and Chair, I'm going to give you these questions too, around the overtime and the mental well-being of the officers who many times find themselves working 16, 20-hour shifts. And I know that there's rhetoric out there that a lot of them want to work these overtime, but many of them don't. And I've heard that many of them actually want to be home with their families and they want to be able to think clearly when they're out in the field. So I want to be able to understand what are the requirements to ask officers to work overtime? How do we, move around the shifts in the different precincts? Because I know that that's very important to the officers in my district. But that's it for me, Mr. Chair. Thank you for holding this space. I'll go give my questions over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilor Pepin. Councilor Fitzgerald, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We knew for a long time that police staffing has been an issue, but I didn't know it was this bad. So it's an important hearing to have, especially coming up on, St. Patrick's Day weekend. We have a very large-scale event, perhaps one of the biggest the city sees annually. So it would be nice to get that information out there fresh to constituents as well as to how we operate, how the police operate, and how the city conducts themselves during those times. But look, we look out for our police. We want to make sure that they are provided for properly so that they can provide for us properly and ensure our safety. And so, yeah, we'll be having questions further, but given the attendance today. And I'll admittedly disappointed in both the administration and police for not even sending anybody, subordinates, other folks. I think it just would have been a good, timely conversation to have. That being said, always support our police and happy to be here for them. So thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Fitzgerald. And as you mentioned, there is the parade is happening this weekend. So if any of my colleagues, again, want to submit any questions or information that you may want to receive from the administration and from our police, I'll try to submit those right after this hearing and try to advocate for my colleagues to try to get those answers prior to this weekend. So we've been joined by Councilor Weber. Councilor Weber, just so you can get updated.
Where?
Okay, great. So I'll give you the floor for any opening remarks.
Okay, when opening remarks or closing remarks, I guess. But well, I thank the filers for this hearing. I think it's an important issue. We're constantly trying to, I think, on this body, trying to figure out how we can address our public safety needs, as well as police overtime spending. I think there was an article. It came out yesterday. It's the top 7 officers made over $500,000 in the last year. A lot of that is overtime. I think there are definitely officers, because of staffing shortages, who are forced to work double shifts, and we want to stop that. But we also want to eliminate the incentive to work voluntary overtime to excess, and part of that is figuring out what our staffing levels are and how those numbers are reached, and what the administration and the police commissioner are doing to ensure public safety, but also make sure we're we're being fiscally responsible. So I look forward to continuing this discussion when we can get people to come and talk to us. Thanks a lot, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Weber. With that, I have been informed that there is no, we don't have anyone that has signed up for public testimony. So before,
Just go to the mic. Oh,
if
You don't have to sign.
you don't have to sign in. You can.
If you want to see.
Yeah, no, come on up and introduce yourself and give your testimony.
Thank you, Councilor Santana, and thank you for being here, councilors. Public safety is probably one of the, to me anyway, is one of the priorities of this city. We heard from Mayor Wu in D.C. saying how safe the city was, and I agree to her 80% of the time. I agree with her. But as far as the people that should be here, and I don't know, I'm not being critical of anybody, but I get discouraged when we have a meeting like this and you look up at the stands. The only thing I picked up this morning was a dead roach, 2-inch roach right here. Thank God it was dead. That's the plus of it. It was dead. But as far as having people to testify and let you know what's going on in the streets, I understand that you folks, and I respect every single one of you, to go around this city and see the problems on the street. If anybody can, in their busy schedule, if you could just walk down to State Street, whether you're at-large city councilor, district city council, even though it might not be a district, walk down to the old State House and walk directly towards the water and take a look at the road. Now, I understand we have the potholes from the winter. That's every year we have that. That street is so disgraceful as far as safety is concerned. It has to be taken care of. You go, I could speak just for my own community, South Boston. My name's John Provenzano, by the way. I should have announced my name and where I come from, South Boston. We've had millions, hundreds of millions given from the federal government to repair a lot of old pipes in our streets. And they've done that. And it was done, and I've watched it all around, not even just South Boston, but the lack of police details to protect the people that are walking the streets. West Roxbury, I have good friends there. One of them I just lost, 92-year-old friend's been there his whole life. West Roxbury's one of the examples of it. Construction going on, no police details. As soon as we talk about overtime, it was like this godforsaken thing, overtime. It has to be done. We need more police. We need more police for the safety of the streets and for the safety of the citizens, and that's part of it. Construction workers, I've seen so many places where there's no detail. Maybe the cadets could help out somehow. I don't know how the rules are, but we just need more protection. And I agree with May Wu, and I want to give you just one example. I was an elected board of a trustee in my union for over 20 some odd years. And my job as the chairman and the 4 trustees that were in the trustees department with me is to be the watchdog. Whether whether you're kissing up to Mayor Wu or whatever you're doing, you have to be a watchdog to what's going on in this city. And I apologize that I didn't make the meeting yesterday, but I listened to the meeting when I got the chance to. please don't take this any way as far as what was going on with the LBGQ and the whole bit. That's fine. You know, you could label me as a homophobic if you want, but that's just a tiny bit of what's going on. We need to put more time with the police, getting more police, getting more firefighters, and fixing a simple thing. The counselors should be out there and walking the streets. Just walk down State Street. That's all I'm asking. You don't have to come to my town. We did a lot of pipe work there, and it was all done work. There was nobody got hurt, thank God, the construction workers. And I'm going to give the name of the company, Feeney Brothers. Their job, and I hope they hear this, their job was to fill in all of the ruts that were made from putting in all the pipes. Yorktown, Councilor Weber, Fitz, Yorktown, you've seen it. South Boston, I know Eddie's gone through all those streets. Councilor Murphy, all over the city. Feeney Brothers' job, and they got a lot of money from the federal government, is to fill in all these holes after the pipes were put in. Every single place that I've gone, the tar that's put back in there is 2 inches below surface. 2 inches. That means they're saving a ton of dough on tar. But guess what? Guess what happens from that? There's a positive and a negative to this. The positive is that the cars have to go a lot slower because of all the ruts. 2 inches below. Figure out what that does to your front end of your car when you're driving, you're hitting these ruts. The negative is that it's ruining a lot of the front ends of a lot of cars. And I bet you have a history of the people that have put in for damage to their cars. I know that's on the records here, that people want to get reimbursed for what they have to fix. So as far as safety is concerned, I won't go anymore. I could talk all day about the police, the fire department. I can't say enough about them. I thought there might have been people here. I wish there was a lot more people here. I really do. I'm an old guy. I have more time than a lot of people that work and stuff. I understand that. But there are people in each family that could come here and let you know what they've seen out in the streets. So I would just ask that we get as much respect for these people, in this case, in this meeting, the police, but it goes further than that. It goes further than the fire department. It goes further even just our citizens, our community citizens that are leaders of each town. And thank you. I go on and on, but I'm going to sit down. Thank you for hearing me. Henry, you're one of my heroes. Keep it going.
Thank you, John. You're one of my heroes. We've been joined by Councilor Durkin. So I'm now going to, okay. So we're going to go to now closing statements and I'm going to allow the sponsors to do that, and then if any of my other councilors want to be able to provide any closing remarks or put questions into the record, just please turn on your light and I'll call on your name. So Councilor Murphy, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to first state that, I mean, what's the point of being an elected official if your only avenue is to submit questions? You know, that's what residents are able to do through 311 or calling us directly. So although I appreciate your willingness, I do think even though this weekend, and one of the things that Councilor Flynn and I tried hard to do is make sure that this hearing did happen before Sunday. It's the first of many upcoming large events across the city, so this was timed on purpose. So pushing this out, knowing that many other very important hearings need to be scheduled, and many offices are saying that, you know, there's nothing open until maybe July after the budget. So very disappointing, so I do have a few questions that I want to make sure are on the record. One is, I know they weren't intending on only sending one person, or I hope they weren't, because I know that I did mention in my opening statements that there was one person, but there's no way one person at our Boston Police Department has the answers to all the questions that we already addressed. So wondering why there wasn't someone here from the Bureau of Field Services, from the Bureau of Professional Standards, someone from the Bureau of Professional Development, from the Bureau of Administration, and then also the Bureau of Community Engagement from those departments. Also, Human Resources here in the city. And we talked about the collaboration, right, between the Boston Police and other departments, and that's why in the hearing order we did ask for any other relevant stakeholders. So if we could get an answer from the administration, who else they were intending on sending, and why they weren't able to come. I would like those questions answered. Thank you.
Also, absolutely, we'll submit that on your behalf, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And before I begin, I just want to follow up on Councilor Murphy, but in the interest of transparency and out of respect for the councilors that are here and the public that is here as well, just so we have it on the record, the Boston Police were invited to this hearing. Could you let us know who from the Boston Police were invited, Mr. Chair?
Do you have the list that we sent over? Yeah, I don't. Councilor Flynn, I'll get you that information of the specific people that we had invited. Do you want to just proceed, and at the end of your remarks, I'll provide that list to you?
Yeah, if we could get the list of who was invited and the reason, Mr. Chair, why they chose not to come, I think in the interest of transparency, I think it would be, it should be given to us. I think these are, I spent 4 or 5 hours developing questions on this particular subject, and I don't know if I want to just send the questions in. I'd rather have it back and forth with the police department on particular questions. There's no one on this body that has been a bigger supporter of the police department than myself. So I really would like the opportunity to talk to members of the police department about staffing levels and how we go forward. The first conversation I had with Commissioner Cox is when he became commissioner, there was a police officer that worked 19 straight hours in a day. And I had a conversation in person with Commissioner Cox about that. And I said, Commissioner, that is so unsafe and unhealthy for that officer and for that officer's family and for the public as well. He agreed and made sure and committed to me that that would never happen again. But I'm only able to have an impact if I can talk directly to the police department in this type of back and forth, respectful manner. I have a bunch of questions. I don't know if it's important for me to ask the questions to no one that's here, so I'm probably not going to do that. But what I would highlight is the incredible role the Boston Police, the men and women they play in our neighborhoods. But the staffing level is a major concern. I go to these community meetings like all of my colleagues every single night in different neighborhoods. And the first person that usually speaks at a community meeting is the police captain. And he or she will give a update on crime stats or community policing, what is happening. And the captain will take questions from the audience, from the residents. And what I always notice is the police have the support of the residents. They respect the police, but they also ask, they'll say, hey, Captain Flynn or Captain Sweeney or Captain Boyle, we need more police in the south end at this particular park. We need more police at Andrew Square. We need more police at Copley Library. They do an exceptional job, but we need more of them. And then we'll get into the subject about staffing levels, how we're down 130 police officers compared to the same exact time last year. So those are issues that I really want to focus on and get answers to, but obviously I'm not going to get it here. But do you have, before I continue, Mr. Chair, do you have a answer for me?
Yeah, so, thank you, Councilor Flynn. So, the committee, me as the chair, I always work with the lead sponsors to make sure that the people that we want from the administration get invited. In this case, we asked for the administration to be here. I think we were, and they did have people. We allowed them to be able to send who they thought was appropriate for this hearing. And we did get confirmation that there was one person who was originally available, and I think is away today. And they asked for a rescheduling. So, in some instances, the committee allows for the administration to send who they think is appropriate. I don't know if the lead sponsor wants to say anything.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a big topic, and would be shocked if Intergovernmental was only going to send one person to answer all these questions. We've had several, meetings like this over the years, and no way would they put it all on one person. And I did go through the list of different departments that would have been necessary to be here.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the timing of it also. Sorry to interrupt, Council Flynn, but we did want to make sure that we had this hearing before the event on Sunday, which I know you've been working diligently to make sure, and anxious to make sure that everyone is safe on Sunday.
Mr. Chair, may I continue?
Yes. Continue, Councilor Flynn.
As I conclude, I'll just say that I'll continue to support the Boston Police and advocate for them. Again, there's no one on this council that has done more for the Boston Police Department than myself as a city councilor. Especially during difficult and challenging times in the city, when elected officials would often be afraid to support the police and their families. I have stood with the police and accepted the criticism from elected officials and the public, and that's fine. I accept that. That's part of the job. But I'm not giving up on the police. I'm not giving up on the men and women of the police department, because they are looking for someone that advocates for them, that fights for the residents of the city, that understands that having 130 police officers less compared to this time last year is a major public safety crisis. I had the opportunity to serve in the United States Navy for 24 years, and I often had to work 16-hour shifts, sometimes longer. And it's very unhealthy and very unsafe for anyone to work that type of environment. And the impact it has on you and your family is significant. When an officer's on his or her 15th hour, and that officer has to make a split decision, potentially making arrest or physically stopping somebody for various reasons. In my opinion, that officer is not on top of his or her game after a 15-hour shift. And when that officer is brought before a discipline board at the Boston Police Department, is this body, the Boston City Council, are they going to support that officer? Will they factor in that the officer was on the 15th hour shift? Will they take that into consideration? Will they go to bat for that officer? These are the types of issues we need to know, because that's exactly what's happening in our city when police officers are working consistently 16 hours a day, often 5 or 6 days a week. What impact does that have on an officer that's has an 8-hour shift, and you're taking your child? We all have children. When you're scheduled to take your child to their dance recital or after school program, and oh, by the way, your supervisor would say to you, Officer Flynn, you can't leave. You have to work another 8-hour shift. We know you have a dance recital that's important for your daughter, but you can't go because we're short-staffed. What does that have? What type of impact does that have on a marriage, on a child? The child is counting on their dad or their mother to be there for them, to support them. Yes, I do take this personal as a father, because I was away for 3 years not being at my children's events, because I was away in the military, and I know it has an impact on a family, it has an impact on my children. But a parent or a guardian needs to be there for their family, for their spouse, for their child, but also an officer working 15, 16 hours a day is not good for a particular neighborhood either. It's not healthy for a neighborhood. It's not ideal, but these are the questions I want to ask, I want to focus on today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. Councilor Durkin, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank the folks who brought this forward. I think I went to all the festivities last year and had a very difficult time finding a way home, and seeing all of the sort of things that I saw, college students coming from across the state to Boston. Obviously, we love tradition, we love all the things that tourism and festivity brings to our city, but just realizing that we are really bearing the brunt of sort of this weekend of everything that's happening around the state. Everyone's coming here, everyone from the entire region, and representing 14 colleges and universities touch District 8, so a lot of people are coming in to have fun, to take part in the festivities. I think that public safety is incredibly important, and I just want to thank our police department. But knowing that the 911 calls that were coming from Mission Hill and the Fenway last year, there was absolutely no capacity to deal with the other issues happening across the city, and all the parties and sort of nuisance that would have risen to the level of a report, and that, at least in my district, the impacts of having all of the officers and everyone move in this direction definitely creates a vacuum. And so I really just came to this hearing to talk about that, but I didn't realize that there wouldn't be a panel. So I do appreciate my colleagues bringing this forward, and appreciate the opportunity for us all to be here. Obviously, it's always very helpful to have a panel and someone responding if we're taking our time to be here, there should be someone here on the other side. So I support my colleagues in asking for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilor Durkin. Seeing that there are no other lights on, we do have one more public testimony, and I want to be able to give the opportunity to that person who took the time to come here, and then we'll adjourn after that. So, David Lopez, is that? I want to, yeah, David Lopez, if you can come down, just introduce yourself, any neighborhood organization, and you have the floor. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. My name is David Lopez. I'm from the Roxbury area. I kind of just walked in here today. Normally I come in here, I speak to y'all, never get no responses back from anyone. As far as just hearing what y'all conversating about, which is basically police and everything like that, I just want y'all to know that between that 15 hours and 8 hours, everything is choices. They chose to work in these places. They choose to be what they are. They choose to work as officers. They have plenty of other options if they don't feel as though that, they're being treated right. As far as that's concerned, coming from my background, I've never had any good altercations with an officer. I've never had an altercation where I needed their help and I actually got the assistance. I got the opposite of that. With that being said, I have no problem with them. I have no problem with anyone. Clearly, it seems like everyone's always having a problem with me. I'm here today because, again, like I said, I'm just here to speak. I've heard y'all out. Don't understand it, most of it, because, again, like, from my understanding of everything that's happening here, officers coming here all the time asking for numerous amounts of money that goes absolutely where exactly? People getting paid, money's going everywhere when there's a lot going on in the city. A lot. There's a lot going on in the city, including homelessness. I was here the first time I was ever here was because of that same fact. Again, there's a lot of things that's going on, and I do understand that officers are needed, to deal with certain people, but not everyone is the same. And out there right now, whether you like to believe it or not, we're not getting treated by these officers like we're citizens or even humans sometimes. And again, I don't know that you was an officer, but again, like I said, at the end, most of this is choice. An officer chooses to become a police officer. An officer doesn't have to be a police officer if he feels as though that he's in fear of his life or whatever the reason is, or if he feels like he's not getting treated right. Just like when we go work for any other company or any corporation, we choose to work for those companies. We make a sign, we put our signature in certain places, and this is it. This is what we must do. So if an officer or anyone is feeling some type of way about their treatment, then maybe they should start looking at themselves about what's really going on. Because 15 hours is a choice. We all know that 8 hours is the minimum amount of hours. After 8 hours, even if you're requested or if you're asked, hey, we have the small amount of people, we don't have enough people, we need you to take them, maybe you should hire more people then. Because at the end of the day, if you're saying that they're exhausted because they're working 15 hours, then you need to hire more people so that way everybody can get the same amount of hours. That being said, that's pretty much just response to that. I actually came here for other reasons. Like I said, I know that it's not. I might have to come back to speak about that because I just seen that the agenda is going to be on that for next week. But yeah, just with that being said, that's pretty much it. And I know, like I said, I'm not going to get no response from y'all. I never come here to get a response from anybody. I've spoken to y'all about a lot of messed up situations that's going on in Boston. And again, only thing I've gotten was these faces, just looks, pretty much. No one's ever spoken back to me. No one's ever responded. No one's answered none of my questions. No one's asking me or telling me exactly what is the purpose of coming over here and just coming to the hearing and speak if I'm not going to get no response to the things that I asked for or the things that I'm talking about, And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. Everyone wants answers. We come over here for answers, not for just to speak and just, seems like we're just wasting our breath. Again, this is not my first time being here. This is not my only circumstances with y'all, unfortunately. And again, like I said, I've been trying to work with y'all to try to fix other situations, and unfortunately, I'm being looked upon like, who am I? That's how y'all looking at me most of the times. Or maybe I'm just looking at y'all like y'all looking at me that way. But most of the time, y'all looking at me like, who is this guy? Why is this guy even coming over here, wasting his breath, speaking to us? Because at the end of the day, y'all gonna hear me and do nothing about it. Nothing at all. No one here. Not one person. And that's pretty much all I really had to say. Came over here to speak, and hopefully I don't know exactly what's going on with those 15 hours for the police officers. I don't know exactly what these police officers want. But I do know that at some point, there's got to be a limit to what these officers can get, you know? Like at some point, they literally have it all. They have it all. They literally have power over us. You feel me? They literally have power over us. You know, we can't go around and say anything or do anything that seems natural to us that would seem unnatural to them. You know, that's a common circumstantial things that's happening in the streets with police officers and regular people that look like me. You know, I'm not saying that it's only colored people. You know, I have white friends and they get treated like me just because they're my friends. So again, it's not a race thing. I know it's never been a race thing. I'm starting to realize a lot more that it's never been a race thing. It's just a power thing or power tripping thing. So at the end of the day, whatever y'all do decide to do, hopefully, my name is David Lopez. My phone number is 407-853-9333. You could call me, contact me if y'all don't have any questions. I know I try to contact y'all all the time. And that's pretty much it. You know, I just came to speak my mind about that part because I just walked in and started hearing all this support for stuff that I don't support. But, you know, that's pretty much it, and thank y'all for y'all time.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
All right.
Appreciate you coming and giving your testimony.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. So with that, I just want to thank my colleagues for being here. And as I said to my colleagues who did put questions into the record, we will make sure to submit them and encourage the administration to answer those as soon as possible, especially with different activities happening over the weekend. So I want to thank the lead sponsors, Councilor Flynn and Councilor Murphy and Councilor Flynn, for bringing us together and filing this. This hearing on docket number 0421 is adjourned.